Recording in progress.
Hello and welcome back to Health Inside and Out. Now, it has been a little bit since I have been on with a podcast, but there is very good reason for that. I am in my very final subject of my master's degree and it's pretty hectic. So I do apologise to my regulars for not being on consistently. I think I've turned a corner and I will be back with more regular episodes. However, while I was researching and coming up with the topic that I'll be doing for my publication, for my research paper that I'll be publishing later this year, I came across this most amazing study and I really wanted to share it with you all. And so this podcast is really around hot flashes, hormones and gut bugs. And it is for our women in the transitional stage of menopause. Now, menopause is a very complex topic, and there's a lot of information and a lot of misinformation out there. I have created a course, which is on my website, on my Days of Health, and you can pop on and have a look at that course. And if that is something that interests you, shoot me a message and I'll send you a discount code for being one of my listeners on my podcast. Now, today is going to dive into some research, but let's just talk about the very real, very fiery, very common aspect of the menopausal transition for women in their 40s and beyond, and that is the hot flashes. And sometimes you feel like you might spontaneously just combust in the frozen food aisle or woken up drenched in sweat at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you're not alone. This is very common. But what if I told you that a simple shift in diet could really help cool things down? And even better, what if the key to that relief lived in your gut? I think we all know that I'm a little bit obsessed with the microbiome, and of course, that is part of my research that I will be undertaking this year. And so we are talking about the microbiome. We're talking about how a group of researchers uncovered some seriously exciting connections between food, gut bugs, and menopausal women. So stick with me because we are going to decode the science and bust some myths and get some practical advice about cooling down in the heat of menopause. So let's set the scene. Menopause is a natural transition, but it can come with a suite of symptoms, and the most infamous is the hot flashes and the night sweats. And these are what doctors call vasomotor symptoms. So vasovascular motor symptoms. And they're caused by changes in the estrogen levels or the estradiol levels, which are basically withdrawing from our bodies. And that can really confuse our body's internal thermostat, our hypothalamus. But here's the kicker. Research shows that frequent hot flashes aren't just inconvenient. They're associated with some higher risks of heart disease and diabetes. And that means it isn't just about comfort, it's around long-term health too. So what can we do about it? Well, hormone therapy may work for some. Many women look for natural food-based solutions, and that's where this study comes in. So it was a 2023 study led by Dr. Hannah Kaliova, and she explored a dietary approach. It included 84 postmenopausal women who were experiencing at least 2 moderate to severe hot flashes per day. Now, half the group kept eating their usual diet, and the other half was asked to follow a low-fat vegan diet, so no animal products, minimal oils, plus one important daily addition, half a cup of cooked soybeans. So this was what the results showed after 12 weeks. The total hot flashes in the group that was taking the soybeans decreased by 95%, and moderate to severe hot flashes dropped by 96%. And in some cases, severe hot flashes disappeared altogether. So can we just pause for a second? Imagine going from 6 flushes a day to almost none in under 3 months just from your kitchen, not from the medicine cabinet. And as we know, let medicine be thy food. Let food be thy medicine, because that is what Hippocrates has told us many, 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 many moons ago. And so it's a very interesting research protocol. So let's talk about soy, because soy has had some bad press over the years and often accused of messing with hormones or increasing breast cancer risks. But the reality is that it's mostly based on outdated or misunderstood science. The vast majority of evidence shows that whole food forms of soy, such as tofu, tempeh, miso, soybeans, are not only safe, but they're beneficial, especially for women in midlife. In fact, populations that consume high amounts of soy, such as many Asian countries, have significantly lower rates of hot flashes and hormone-related cancers. Now, what matters most is the form of soy. So we're not talking about ultra-processed soy protein isolates found in snack bars. There's a lot of soy milk out there that is very highly processed. We are talking about whole soy foods, and that's what the women in this study ate daily. So if you're wondering what half a cup of cooked soybeans translates to in everyday meals, here are some equivalents. About 100 grams of firm tofu, a block of tempeh around the size of a deck of cards, a generous scoop of edamame, or adding some good quality soy milk to your smoothie or cereal. And it's surprisingly easy to include one of these in your day. There are some amazing tofu recipes. I love my tofu. I use it in so many dishes. And it just, yeah, you don't have to have it just soft. I know some people don't particularly like it because it's like biting into nothing. But sometimes I will use my potato masher, mash it all up so it becomes really quite fine, and then a little bit of tamari sauce over the top for a bit of flavour, some lime juice. It is really quite yummy, and thrown in a salad. It's actually really, really quite good. So let's start talking about this gut microbiome, because if you haven't listened to some of my previous recordings, go back and have a listen. I actually did two. My first two out of the gate were on the gut microbiome. I am a little bit microbiome obsessed. The more I learn about the role that our gut microbiome plays in our overall health and well-being, the more blown away I am. And the thing is, the research is relatively new, but the research is emerging and exciting. And it's definitely where I will be putting my time and energy as a researcher, as an academic. This is where I'll be hanging out, in the gut microbiome with those microbes. When researchers looked at what was happening in the gut of a small group of 11 women from that diet group, they looked at certain gut bacteria, because certain gut bacteria are responsible for turning soy oesoflavins into equal, which is a compound that behaves like a weak form of estrogen, and it binds to the receptors to help balance things out. So remember, we have got the estradiol withdrawing from our bodies, but we've got these gut bacteria who can turn the soy isoflavins into this equal, so that it takes up the job of the disappearing estradiol. Now, not everyone's gut can make equal, but people on plant-based diets are more likely to be equal producers. So soy plus the gut bugs equals plant-powered estrogen support. And in those 11 women, not only did the hot flashes decrease dramatically, but researchers saw significant shifts in their gut bacteria. How do we look at gut bacteria in a research model? It's generally looking at fecal matter to ascertain what bacteria is in the fecal matter, because our bacteria lives in the colon. So there's some really important species. One is called Fusicatenibacter, and it is known to support anti-inflammatory effects and gut health. Then there is Holdemanella, and it's linked to reducing food addiction behaviours and better body composition. So we want these bacteria in our gut. And the other one is, I say this very slowly because it's a very, very long word, but Erysipelatoclostridium. Man, I'm going to stuff that up. Erysipelatoclostridium. Clostridium's easy. It's the Erysipelatoclostridium. So many letters in that word. But it is associated with estrogen-like effects and hormone balances. So that is the one that we want, okay? And so we're going to get that by predominantly having a plant-based diet. Now, other species decreased. So the asparagiforme, which is one that is linked to inflammation and heart disease risk, it started to go away. And the Prevotella corporis, found in people with rheumatoid arthritis and known for pro-inflammatory effects, also started to decrease. So even though they're really hard to say, the point is that the three that are really important, three of the very important ones increased and two of the not so great ones decreased. So there are trillions of bacteria, and they've all got ridiculously long names that are really hard to pronounce. But the point being that when these women went on more of a plant-based diet and introduced the soy per day, half a cup of soy per day, this is what happened for them. So when we get rid of those troublemaker species, it's connected with fewer severe hot flashes, particularly at night. And one of the most interesting findings was the link between the bacteria and the symptoms. For example, the lower levels of the Clostridium were directly related to fewer severe nighttime flashes, statistically significant point. And that was not just the feel-good story. It was really statistically powerful because the number was very consistent. Well, I'm really struggling today with my Latin, and it could be because I'm actually doing this quite late at night after a big day of study. So I do apologise for my mispronunciation of those species, but you know what? I'm going to pop them in the notes of this video. So if you want to go and read them for yourself, please feel free to go and do that. So what does this mean for you and your plate? So first, soybeans are not just a protein source, they're hormonal helpers. And then they help pair with a good microbiome. Secondly is plant-based, high fiber eating, supporting that gut bacteria and reducing inflammation. Now, this is aside from the soy, okay? Because when we have plant-based high fiber eating, we are making a lot of good flora. And I'm talking about plant-based with diversity. So not the same 2 and 5 every day. We want to really expand the sorts of colours and textures of fruits and vegetables and grains and nuts and seeds that we are having, because the more diversity we have, the more that will support diversity of gut bacteria. And that will help regulate hormones and reduce inflammation, and just on its own may very well decrease hot flashes. I'm going to touch on a point here of a couple of things that will kill off the good guys and increase the bad guys. And it's pretty simple, ladies. It's sugar and it's alcohol. And when we consume alcohol, and by all means, take note, if you have a couple of drinks on a Friday night or over the weekend, notice what happens with your hot flashes, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to decrease. Sometimes you can not have one for a while and have a few drinks and it will actually shift that balance. Sugar will do the same thing. So just be aware of what you're eating and what the effect is. Now, this wasn't about calorie counting in this study, but it was about nourishing the body with foods that the gut can work with. Now, you don't have to go 100% vegan overnight, but you can add tofu, tempeh, or cooked soybeans to your meals. Prioritize fiber from fruits and vegetables, legumes, and whole grains, and reduce those heavily processed foods and added oils, because these small shifts really do help your gut, your hormone, and potentially reduce those hot flashes. So, if you want the science behind the sparkle, check the notes below for links, the research summary, and a glossary of terms that I have tried to really hard to pronounce those tonight, but it's just not happening. So thank you for bearing with me. But if you would like help shifting your diet or finding your rhythm through menopause, please reach out. As I said, I do have a course already there, ready to go on my website that you can jump on. And if you have listened to this, please shoot me a message or an email, and by all means, I will send you a discount code for you to jump on and do the hormonal harmony course, because, well, I wrote it. I think it's good. The feedback has been really promising. And the majority of my clients have said what they loved about it most was the simplicity, that it really kind of brought it down into bite-sized pieces they could understand. And it's not a very long course. However, the more I learn, even, there's extra pieces in the making now that will be built into that course. And once you have access, you have access. Once you've paid for it, you've got lifetime access. And I will email out all of the subscribers to that course once these new updates go in, because as I learn, I want to teach my friends, my family, my clients, my soul sisters, because if I learn something through the research that may help you navigate this transitional period, then that makes me happy. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, my apologies for my Latin not being on point this evening. It has been a pleasure to have you listen. I hope you have learnt something that you can take away and use. And I look forward to connecting with you either through social media or via email or by jumping on one of my courses. Thank you.